Welcome to another Canadian Computer Collector's Spectacle. My name is Dan, and today we're going to be doing something that's been in the very back of my head for the last 20 years. When I was a lad, in grade 10, around 2003, I started going to LANs to play mostly Counter-Strike, but some other games too. Stuff like StarCraft and Warcraft 3 and Battlefield 2 and the odd game of Battlefield Vietnam. Also, don't forget Dave Defeat. And back then, I used to encounter some amazing PC builds. Super cool custom stuff, and I always wished that I could have one of my own. I had a nice PC-ish, but what teenager has thousands of dollars for a custom PC? Especially back in 2003. I didn't, but those parts now are not very expensive. So, today, we are gonna build the ultimate LAN PC that I would have wanted to make as a teenager using parts from before 2005. So we're talking like everything, kind of trying to squeeze it into 03, 04, but you know, we'll see. Back in the early 2000s, cool case mods were all the rage. Most cases still came with a 3.5-inch floppy drive space, as well as multiple slots for 5.25-inch optical drives. So what do you do with all that extra space? Well, you put some cool stuff in it. And while you're at it, why not add some paint, some cool lights, a window, more fans, cold cathode, some custom grills, some extra drives, a bunch of mini displays, or an effing fish tank. It was the Wild West for creativity, and since everyone was already modding their own cases, some companies caught on and started to create their own custom cases. One of those enclosures was this, the Chief Tech Dragon, or Antech Dragon, or Alienware Dragon, or a handful of other companies. But there are a ton of these, all made from different materials by a handful of businesses. When I say these are made of different materials, I'm not kidding. This one's made out of steel, and this one's made out of aluminum, which makes for a huge difference in weight. Now I remember seeing these cases at LANs in all sorts of different configurations, reveling in their look and just thinking about how awesome they are. So you can imagine how jazzed I was when two of these came for sale locally. I'm a little disappointed they're not yellow, but blue's cool too. You know, I had a black one earlier, but that's where the motherboard came from for this project. The black case was in such bad shape, I felt like I was a coroner for a guy that just blew part of his head off, so we'll stick with these guys for now. So after I picked up both these two cases, I tried to make the best of both worlds, sharing parts from each of them to make one ideal machine, and that brings us to now. The steel one is still super heavy, so we're gonna keep this as our parts car, per se, and the aluminum one is gonna get all of the innards placed within it. I picked up as many parts as I could find that I would have wanted as a teenager, and they're basically all blue and yellow. So that's the theme, blue and yellow. You could say, oh, you doing a Fallout PC? No. You know what it is. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. We're running a Socket 939 Asus A8V Revision 2 motherboard, which is an excellent old gaming board. This is mated to an AMD 64 3000 single-core CPU. Technically, this board can handle up to 8 gigs of RAM, but we're only going to be using 4-ish, because Windows XP only needs about 3-ish, so we've got 4 sticks here and some lovely blue sheaths for them. We also have 2 optical drives, and then this wonderful 5.25-inch audio card. It's some kind of weird sound thing from Sound Blaster. We're going to plug that in and give it a try. Next up, for the 3.5-inch bays, we have one 3.5-inch floppy drive and a multi-card reader. Then we got an Enermax 485-watt blue power supply. Also have an IDE controller card, just in case we need it. A whole bunch of cold cathode stuff, some fan grills, some blue fans from China, yellow sheathing from China. We got a blue LED beam from eBay, a bunch of yellow and blue cables. But then lastly, the pièce de résistance. Folks, this is it. Stack.
You forgot your SSD.
The Radeon 9800 Pro all-in wonder. The Radeon 9800 Pro graphics card was released initially in March 2003, sporting 128 megs of VRAM and a whole lot of attitude and batitude. In October that same year, the R360 variant arrived with 256 megs of VRAM available, but we aren't using either of those. Today, we're using an all-in-wonder 9800 Pro, initially $350 in 2003, or roughly $580 today. The all-in-wonder was not just a 3D graphics card, but also a media powerhouse. It came with a video recording software suite, a ton of different cables and adapters to connect to various media devices, and a built-in TV tuner to allow for actual cable television output on your machine. So the all-in-wonders were known as an R350 variant, and that means that this one's running 128 megs of VRAM. But it should do everything we needed to, and a little bit more. For now, we're going to focus on setting it up for gaming, but in the future we might do a deep dive into its media capabilities. It's funny because I remember at original LANs that I used to go to seeing ads and posters from some of the sponsors for 9800 Pros, and I always thought it would be really cool to have one of those. Anyway, enough of that. We got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. I'm thinking quick montage. Alright gang, after a sick montage, it is time to turn this thing on, m'lady. Okay, first thing of note, this thing is booting immediately without me touching a power button or jumping any pins. But, is it outputting video? Okay, sweet, yeah, alright. Golden. Quick update, this thing is starting to suck the life out of my body. I was planning to do everything really quickly. I thought I had everything going. We were going to plug in the fans and then move on from there. But no, we've been spending a week straight trying to get Windows XP on a new hard drive, which for some reason doesn't want to work. I would rather be removing the hair on my head one at a time, eating gelatin out of a man's hands, watching paint dry inside a room without windows, eating gelatin out of a man's hands, sleeping beside a car, removing the hair on my head one at a time, removing the hair on my head one at a time. Anyway, there are plenty of things that I would rather be doing than installing Windows for the 1000th time, but my brother is here and we're going to solve this problem, tag team in this awful, amazing Windows XP computer that I've always wanted. I guess I forgot over the years how much fun it is to put XP on a spinning disk hard drive. Many different times. I'd also be foolish not to mention the fact that you can join our Patreon for only $1 a month. Get your name in the credits in every video going forward, so long as you stay subscribed, just like these wonderful people. I'm talking about Dana Does Stuff, Steph Jo, Jerry Stoner, Larry Collins, Branchus Creation, Evan Grill is back, Gelhaar Retro Gaming, Justin Morgan, Ron's Computer Videos, SShrek or Shrek, Dave's Vintage Apple Tech, Trina Conrad, Garth Beagle, Mac84, and Ethan Palamaro. So don't forget, you can become a member for $1 a month, and if you follow the link in the description below, let's get back to it. Okay, that was a huge pain in the ass. I spent a whole bunch of time installing drivers. I ended up removing the Sound Blaster Audigy 2 ZS. It's probably too old for this machine anyway, because it was more of like a Windows 98 card from what I've found online, but I just couldn't get the drivers to work. It kept saying that the card was not found, I didn't have any Sound Blaster or creative hardware in the computer, and I thought, but I do! Anyway, we pulled it out for now because we want this project to move forward. So, on to the best part. Beautification, milady. Yeah, we're gonna make this look good. Onward and upward, onward and upward. dropped my phone in a puddle right before this. Folks, look at all of this beautiful yellow sleeving. Now, braiding a power supply that is not modular is one of the worst things I've had to do. Probably, I imagine someday gonna go down as the worst job I've ever done sleeving cables, but it's also the first job I've ever done sleeving cables, so who cares? I just want to get these into that machine and see how everything looks. I'm pretty excited. TBH, how about you? HBY. H-A-B, or H-A-Y. Depends on if you're saying about or about. Okay, let's prep that case and get everything back in it, looking nice and pretty. Well, that was quite the sprint. I'm pumped now though, because we can start installing our cold cathode lights. Though these things always make me nervous, because I'm always worried that they're gonna get bumped around too much in storage between projects and then maybe not work anymore, or maybe start a fire. On the plus side, the long sticky ones are relatively new. The round one, however, is like at least 15 years old. And just as sassy. And they work! Well, that's a bonus. And they look pretty nice too, if you ask me. Anyway, let's get these things into the case right now and secure them with a little hot glue. Then we also need to secure their little converter boxes. So I doubled down on adhesive with double-sided tape and then hot glue to fill the crevasses. Also along this journey of testing, I figured out that one of the fan Molex pins had lost the cable, so I actually went in and soldered it back into place. Little shot of hot lead, figured that one out quick. They call me PC Rambo. Alright, with basically everything in place, but not well cable managed, I decided to crank it up just to make sure everything still worked. And lo and behold, check it out. In the test though, I wasn't huge on how the bottom light was showing up, so I did pull it off and move it a little further into the case so that it would show up better in the window. Also in that time, I somehow managed to pull the cable off of the power button and had to solder that back into place too. Solving more problems with hot lead, Stallone style. And here we have it now, folks. One gorgeous machine giving off a sick early 2000s vibe. I am super duper digging this one, and it is giving me all the nostalgia feels. Yeah, the case is not perfect, it's a little bit scratched, but you know what? So are most things from the early 2000s, especially vinyl records. Anyway, the other thing it also gives off is quite a lot of air. Sounds like an aircraft sitting on the tarmac, just at idle. What's left? Well, time to install some games and have fun.
That's what it's all about.